Good morning. Welcome to the weekly livestock market update on Brownfield. I'm anchor reporter Megan Grosvenor with us as always to talk all things market. University of Missouri, Scott Brown. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Megan.
We're a little late. We both had a travel day yesterday, so we're able to catch up today. We're going to talk some cattle on feed numbers that came out yesterday. A little interesting results from USDA, and we'll talk some retail prices as well. But to kick things off, let's recap what happened this week in the markets.
Yeah, Megan, this week on the cattle side, cash cattle in particular down, fed cattle down $2.25 on the week. We saw those feeder cattle markets also lower, anywhere from $5 to $10 lower this week. We were up December live cattle futures, $1.45, and also January feeder cattle futures were up $2.15. Box beef, choice box beef this week, down about $4.50. You know, we've talked about where it sits relative to a year ago for a while, but just looking at where we sit today, it's about $39 higher. So we've certainly reduced the gap of growth that we've seen in those choice box beef prices. On the hog side, cash barrels and gilts down 80 cents this week. The December lean hog futures contract was down $1 this week. We also lost $1.40 on the pork cutout value. Loins, hams, and bellies were all lower this week.
Scott, as we take a look at what's been happening, cash hogs continue their slide. Pork cutout values have struggled. How much are we watching the demand picture, both export sales when we look at those weekly numbers, but what's happening domestically as well?
Yeah, so I think both are important. I think the export side maybe still giving us a little bit of lift as we've talked about lower prices. But when you see where we sit on some of these components, domestic demand seems to be continuing to slow a little bit for us on the pork side. And we need stronger demand as we get further into 2024 here.
Everybody's going to need to add some ham and bacon to their holiday meals, right?
That's right. Every meal should be pork here for a while.
Scott, let's take a look at weekly slaughter numbers. How did things for cattle and hogs stack up?
Yeah, so this week on the cattle side, 636,000 head of cattle was USDA's call for this week. That's up 18,000 from where we were a week ago, but 36,000 head below where we were a year ago at this time. Hog run this week also higher, 2.649 million head of hogs this week. That was 72,000 head more than we ran last week and 51,000 head more than where we were a year ago.
Scott, we continue to track what is happening year to date for both cattle and hog slaughter. How are those stacking up?
Yeah, we're getting close enough now, Megan. I think we're going to know kind of those year-to-date numbers. Cattle slaughter 4.7% below a year ago when you look at year-to-date numbers, while on the hog side, we're up 1.5%.
Cattle on feed was a big report out this week as we take a look at those November 1 cattle on feed numbers. Let's start first with inventory.
So on feed November 1st, 101.7. That was in the pre-report range of 101.4 to 102.4. So more on feed, not surprising given the placements that we saw last month as well, leading to those higher on feed numbers. When we look at placements in October, we came in at 103.8. That also was within the range. It was actually below the midpoint of the range. Midpoint of the pre-report range was 106.1. So yes, more cattle placed. For me, we can start to look at the state by state numbers, and I think Megan illuminates a little bit of what's going on. You know, so we see Kansas on feed November 1, they're up 190,000 head. That's 8.2% higher. Texas also up 40,000. Iowa's the other one that's up 10,000 head. So we certainly see other states, Nebraska down 60,000 head or 2.3%. Colorado down 40,000 head or 3.7%. So it's a mixed bag when you look at the on-feed inventory and where those cattle are being fed in different states.
Scott, when we look ahead at what's going on with these inventory numbers and the placements as well, what does that set us up for in Q1 2024 and looking into even the first half of the year?
So I think number one, we're going to talk about maybe more production than we otherwise would have. You know, we got USDA's WASD last week that up 2024 beef production. But I will keep saying we're going to be short. You know, the overall picture has not really changed when you look at cow inventory. We're not building the herd from best we can tell from all the USDA data available to us on that front. So maybe we're just pulling cattle still forward earlier than otherwise would be the case. I will say, I think we have to keep reminding ourselves of drought impacts affecting what we're doing today, but also those drought impacts affecting what we were doing in 2022 has a little bit to do with what we're talking about when we compare a report like yesterday's report to where we were a year ago.
Matt, do we also get concerned about, like, at some point we're going to be short, and that would what eventually spell some price support for producers ahead, right?
Yeah, so Megan, I'm not convinced that we've seen our record yet. Maybe we don't start pushing, you know, record level prices again until we get out in late spring, early summer. But I'm not convinced that we're done in terms of cattle prices. And I know I'm saying that in the face of what's been lower prices the last few weeks, but the fundamentals haven't really changed. It's, I think, just kind of how we're seeing cattle get in the feed yard at this point in time, being pushed a little higher. And well, again, we'll have to watch. You know, imports from Mexico have been important to this discussion as well. And I'll remind us that when you have really high prices, makes those cattle in other countries also more interesting to bring into the U.S. and place, trying to keep those feed yards reasonably full.
And it's also part of the story for a country that really loves their hamburgers, right?
And we're certainly going to talk about what's higher prices for consumers, and how do you moderate, or how do you make sure we don't price ourselves out of that market, right?
All right, let's take a look at retail prices. As you look at the October 2023 retail prices, let's start off with beef, since we're on the beef topic.
Yes, so $8.17 was what was reported as the October choice retail beef price. That's 10% above where we were a year ago at this time. So we're climbing. When you look across the board at some of the cuts here, so boneless sirloin steak, $11.70. That was 11.4% above year ago. All ground beef, so all varieties here, $5.67. That was 6.9%. So across the board, you know, we're seeing increases. And although maybe October of 2019 is a long ways away at this point, given everything that's going on, we're generally talking about those beef prices that are anywhere from 35 to 45% above where they were back the pre-COVID.
When you look at pork prices, are you surprised to see where they're standing comparatively?
So a little bit, perhaps. You know, you look at what we got, a $5.04 retail pork price for October, really unchanged from where we were a year ago. So we're keeping those prices higher. I think, you know, Megan, maybe one of the things that we've lost a little bit of track of is I still think when you look at the wholesale to retail spread for the pork side of the equation, it's still very wide and has been widening as we've gone through 2023. And I think that has been part of we got lower farm level prices with what are retail prices that aren't all that different. It has a lot to do with the cost that we're seeing wholesale to retail on the pork side right now.
I think it's a really interesting conversation on the consumer side of things, to help them understand that while they may be paying significantly more at the grocery store, that's not something that producers are seeing a direct correlation to in terms of higher prices.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I think this is the one where we're feeding corn and soybean meal at prices we haven't seen before. Yes, they've come down from their highs. I don't want to mean today's where that is, but significantly higher than where we would have been pre-2020. And so profitability on all these livestock sectors is a lot different today, despite, and here's another case where the retail pork price 29% above where it was back in October of 2019 here in October of 23. Even with those kinds of increases, profitability has been really tough on the pork side of the equation.
Scott, we have a short week next week with the Thanksgiving holiday, but a couple of reports that'll come out before on Wednesday. What are we looking at next week?
Yeah, so we'll get livestock slaughter. That might give us a little bit of indication of beef cow slaughter and where we're headed on the herd. And we'll also get cold storage next Wednesday.
Is there a level in terms of the beef cow slaughter that you're watching that maybe shows that we're while we've pulled back some, but we're maybe actually starting to turn the corner to hold back and maybe start thinking about growing the herd?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an absolute number that I'm looking for, but I'm looking for a significant change relative to what we've been doing. Yes, beef cow slaughter has been running below year ago levels, but 2022 was running above year ago levels. 2022 was very low in terms of beef cow slaughter. I just think we're gonna at some point see some growth. I do think it's a mixed bag for producers. Those with adequate forage may be making that switch sooner. Those that are still in dry conditions, I think are going to be more patient before deciding whether they want to grow the herd again.
It'd be funny for us to take a look at next week. Scott, have a great day. Thanks for switching your schedule up to accommodate some travel.
Hey, it's all good.
All right. Send the weekly livestock market update delivered to your email box every Saturday morning. Okay, maybe a little bit later today. Go to brownfieldagnews.com. You can also submit questions and comments. And for market updates every day, make sure to check out John Perkins Market Minute. Have a great weekend. I'm Megan Grevner for Brownfield.